just stuff that's going on and stuff that's been going on in the house, or at my house, you know. So, I don't know how exciting this video is going to be, but I mentioned in another video that I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do neighborhood gossip anymore. Because I have to be very careful about what I say now. And the reason behind that is because one of my daughter's friends is into ASMR, and she was scrolling through her YouTube For You page or whatever, and she came across one of my videos, and she was like, oh my god, is that Emma's mom? And she clicked on it, and she was like, I think it's Emma's mom. And then she asked Emma, she was like, is this your mom? You know, and Emma's like, yes, my mom does ASMR. That's so cool that you found her, you know? And, like, I don't know, it just makes me feel weird knowing that someone I know watches the channel, right? Because this friend is one of my neighbors. She's not one of the core neighbors, and I've never talked about her or her family because they're not like right around me, you know. They live on the back street and about actually 2 houses down that way. So I never have any issues with them. But my daughter's friend's mom is friends with Pool House. And I'm like, oh no. But apparently her friend has not told her mom about my channel or anything like that. So for now we're safe, but I'm like, I don't want that, you know, because me and Pool House are kind of friends now. Okay. I really like her actually. That doesn't change the fact that Pool House is very annoying. The sound echoes, it's very loud, all that, you know. But it's like I'm scared to say anything else about my neighbors, you know, because I have some I have some information, but I cannot share it because it involves certain neighbors, and you know, so I'm just not. I think if I do neighborhood gossip, it's gonna be like, it's gotta be like jaw dropping and something like on another street or whatever, because there is stuff that's been going on in our neighborhood that's like, what is going on? Like, there's this guy that's been walking around the neighborhood for days, and he's just walking down the street with this dog, and he's screaming and he's banging on people's door for help. And when people are like, what's going on, how can I help you, he's just screaming and yelling at them, and they think he's on drugs, you know. And so they've called the cops and stuff like that. He's never came and knocked on our door, thank God. But it's literally just right there. And they've called the cops, and the cops are like, he's not really doing anything, so he's not breaking any laws. And I'm like, how is that not like disturbing the peace, you know? But they won't do anything about it. And then like the next day he was yelling and screaming, and like he cut himself. I don't know how he cut himself, but he did. And the cops were called, and then they called the ambulance, and the cops didn't take him away, the ambulance did. And he was in the hospital, and then he got out like immediately after, and then he was back at it again, yelling and screaming, and the cops were called again, and they were like, there's nothing we could do. And then the next night he did something, and like, cause I guess he lives with his mom, and he attacked her and hurt her. Well, then the police came and took him to jail. But So I do have an update on my English neighbors. First, I was over there talking to them about their garden because they're putting in new plants and stuff. And it's a man and a wife, the English neighbors. And the man, I don't want to say names, but I always just call them my English neighbors, you know. The man, he was wearing like a sun hat, and he had like this patch on his forehead, and I was like, what's wrong? Did you like hit your head? And he was like, no, I am having to do treatment or whatever. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said that he went on his yearly doctor checkup or whatever, and it turns out he has skin cancer on his forehead. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know. And I was like, so are you having to go in and do treatments and stuff like that? And he was like, no. And the treatment that he told me he was getting, I was like, what? Because this is like crazy to me. Okay, so he is getting chemotherapy, but he's not going to some center or, you know, getting radiation or whatever it is that they do. No, they gave him chemotherapy lotion, and he puts it on his forehead or wherever the cancer is, like twice a day or something. Like, what? Have you ever heard of chemotherapy lotion? And like, the English lady, she is a retired nurse, and she was like, I was a chemotherapy, like, cancer nurse or whatever, and she's like, I've never heard of this, so it must be new or something, or at least new here. But I'm like, that's very convenient, right? And I asked him about his symptoms, and he said they were awful, you know, but he's like, I don't think they're anything compared to the chemotherapy where they put the line in, and like, you know what I mean? He's like, so I think it's a bit easier than like traditional chemotherapy, but he was like, you still have the symptoms and you're still sick and like all this stuff, you know. But he was like, but I'll take the lotion over the actual chemotherapy any day, you know. So hopefully that clears up. Like, I'm just so like, what the hell? There's chemotherapy lotion for skin cancer. What is that? Like, it must be for like stage 1 cancer or something like that. I know there's different stages, but it's got to be like the lowest stage for them to be like, here's a tube of chemotherapy lotion. Like, what? That's so crazy. But anyway, I've mentioned before in multiple like neighborhood gossip videos about their son and how he had to move to, I believe it was New York. I thought it was Massachusetts, but I think it was New York, like Buffalo or something like that. And their family stays here. Like the mom and the 2 kids, they stay here, and the dad travels back and forth because he got laid off, and he got he got laid off, and then he went to nursing school, and he didn't pass nursing school, and they wouldn't if you fail nursing school, that's it, you ain't getting back in. So he tried looking for another job because he's in finance, and I'm talking like high up there type of finance, you know. And those jobs are like few and far between. And so he finally got a job, and he had to take it in New York, and they told him that he could work there for a year and then transfer back down. No, he worked there for a year. They would not allow a transfer, and so for an entire year after that, he was looking for another job at a different company, and he went on hundreds of interviews, and there was a company here in the Woodlands. It's actually in Shenandoah, which is like this super tiny town that's basically right on the edge of the Woodlands. And he did this interview, and he actually got the job, and I was like, yay, because that means he gets to come home, you know. But my neighbor was like, when they found out he was doing an interview, they were just like, ugh, because there were over 1,000 applicants, over 1,000 for this one job, and this is like the 100th interview that he's gone on, so he wasn't expecting much, but he actually got the job, so he was able to move down here, and now it's just like pure chaos because they have one house, but he missed their dad. Like, they went up there during holidays and he would come down. It was just, it's like when you live separately like that, it's hard, you know, and it's gotta be hard to be away from your kids and your wife for that long, and, you know, so, and I know specifically their daughter, the granddaughter, she hated going to New York because it would take her away from her house and her grandparents and stuff like that, so she is thrilled, you know, so, yay, he's back home. Okay, this is something, it's not neighborhood gossip, it's just something that was happening here in my house, and I was just like, ugh. So, we have, 2 bathrooms upstairs, and then we have a bathroom downstairs, and I was like in the living room or whatever, and my son, he's very particular about noises and stuff, you know, because he's sensitive, and he was going to the bathroom, and then he came running out. Well, he was going to the bathroom, and he kept saying, "Mom, Mom," and I'm like, "What?" And then he came running out of the bathroom, and I was like, "What is going on?" He was like, "There's something in the bathroom," and I was like, "What?" So I'm all freaking out, so I go into the bathroom, and I'm like, "There's nothing here, there's nothing here," and he's like, "I can hear something," and I'm like, "Oh, what?" So I stand in the bathroom, and I'm like, "I hear nothing," and then I'm like, "All right, silence," you know. So I'm standing there, and then I hear like the shuffling sound, and I'm like, "What is that?" And then it was coming from the air vent, like it's like a suction intake vent type thing that's in the bathroom. And so I was like, "Oh, it's nothing," because in my bathroom upstairs, our air intake vent or whatever goes straight up to the roof, and then there's like this filter thing. But a lot of the times the birds like to sit on there, and you can hear like their wings fluttering or whatever, you know. And so I was like, "Oh, it's just that." But we kept hearing it, and then one day when he was hearing it, I was like, "I'm gonna go outside because there's like no birds, you know. I need to see if there's a bird on the roof." So I went outside and looked, and there was nothing. And I go back inside, and I still hear the noise, and like there's no bird. So I'm like, oh my god, something. What could this be? So I told my husband, and I'm like, there must be something in the attic, or like, you know. So he goes up to the attic, and there's literally nothing, and like, I was like, "Are there any holes or anything anywhere?" And he's like, "No," because there's usually in attics there are like some type of little vents or whatever, but ours doesn't have that. And he was like, because when you go up there, if you don't turn the light on, it's complete darkness. Like, you can't see anything, and you should be able to see some type of light coming through, you know, but ours isn't like that. Anyway, so I was like, "Okay, well, we need to find this air vent or whatever." So we found it, and he was like, "Well, it goes out." Like, he traveled, and it was like, "It goes out the side of the house, like over there." So what's over there, you know? So I go out there, and it's like this little vent thing. I think it's called the air intake vent or valve or whatever, but it has like these little flaps, you know, and whenever I turn on my dryer, the flaps open up, so it like blows out the hot air, right? Well, it's also connected to the air suction vent thingy downstairs in the bathroom, and I was like, "Oh my gosh," because my neighbors over here, they have birds that live in their little vent thingy, and every year they build a little nest, and it's right there. So whenever birds have ever been really loud in videos or whatever, it's because the birds are right there, you know. And like, you can always see like the like parts of the nest hanging out of their little air intake, and like, these birds are so smart. They took a stick and so smart. But anyway, so I go out there and I look, and you can see like the little vent, and you can see like bird droppings along the wall, and I was like, oh, there's a bird in there. These birds must have told their little friends about their, house set up, and then told other birds, right? So I'm like, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, well, I know it's hooked up to the heater thing, so, or not the heater, but the dryer. So I told my husband, I need to not take my eyes off of this little air vent deal. So I made him go upstairs and turn on the dryer. Like 10 seconds after it turned on, bam, a massive bird just flew out of there. And I was like, oh, there's a bird in here. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So I was like, we need to change this vent that is literally just a bunch of flaps, and we need to have it with the flaps that have the grate under it. So I had to order this grate vent cover, so it still allows the airflow, but it stops birds from building nests in your house. And so ever since he put that on, no more sound, no more sound. So thank God. But anyway, so another thing that's been going on here is I finally got my roof fixed. Yeah, when the hurricane happened last year, I know, it's been a long time. When the hurricane happened last year, like, it knocked the fences down and it ripped entire roofs off of houses and stuff. Our house was completely fine. We just were missing some, what are they called, shingles on the back side and this side of the roof. And I'm like, fixing a roof is super expensive, and every time anybody came by, because after a hurricane or tornado or all that stuff, there's always people being like, you need a new roof and blah blah blah, and everybody was just like, it's so expensive. I was just like, I don't want that, so eventually there was this company that came by, but I didn't even know because I've got the no soliciting sign, and so they actually respected the no soliciting sign, which I appreciated. But he put his business thing in my door, and I went out to go check the mail, and it said, the whole business spiel or whatever about fixing roofs and stuff like that. But on the back, the guy was like, I'm fixing your neighbor's roof, two houses down. I see that you're missing some shingles. I can replace just those shingles if you want, because the rest of your roof, as I can see, is fine. So I was like, whoa, because all the other people were like, no, you need a whole new roof. We can't just replace, a few shingles. And I was like, finally somebody. So I actually went down the street and I was like, yo, you can fix these shingles. Like, how much is it going to be? And he was like, well, I have to count the shingles, but it'll be whatever price, And I was like, because it was the lowest price that I had ever had been able, so there's somebody outside, sorry. But anyway, and he was like, yeah, because he's like, I see it's only a few shingles and I'm fixing their whole entire roof, but there's going to be extras left over, so I could just use whatever, and you can just pay me for the labor. And I was like, what? So I was like, I gotta talk to my husband, and my husband was asleep because he works at night, so, but I was just like, yes. So he gave me his cell phone number. He was like, you can call the business line or you can call the cell phone, but if you call the cell phone, I'll come back out here and blah blah blah. So we had the guy come back out like the next day, and it was so easy. Like, we signed the stuff, like, it was awesome. He took pictures before and after and blah blah blah, and he saw some stuff that was loose over here, and he went ahead and fixed that, like, no charge. I was like, yes. So now I have no more money. I mean, because it wasn't cheap, but it was this person's getting their roof done, and this, like, it was never ending for a while. I was one of those people, and I was like, I'm like the people that I complain about, but I'm like, oh, I feel so much better. I feel so much better that it's been fixed, you know? Like, that was a huge worry and stress on me, and I don't even know why. It just was. But let's see, what else? What else? I'm trying to think of, like, I've got notes here, but like, it's not really anything really. I know that I was talking about the house and I wanted to talk about something else. Oh, so I was very, like, excited and then upset because you know that we want to move. We've wanted to move for a while, you know, because I have MS and stairs are very hard. Like, I think in one of my last videos, like health updates or something, like in February, I told you that I fell down the stairs, and it was a really bad fall, but I fall down the stairs all the time, you know, so I have to be very careful, or I have to, like, scoot down the stairs, you know, because the stairs are bad. But like, we want to move to a one-story house, you know, and I was talking to my mom about it, and she was like, well, why don't you just have a house put on our property, you know? And I was like, what? And she was like, no, think about it. You could have a one-story put on our property, like, because they have manufactured homes and modular homes, you know. That, have you seen those houses? Like, oh my god, they're amazing. But anyway, and I was just like, I don't know, you know. And she was like, yeah, you could put it right in this very, she was like, there's so much space here, or whatever, you know. And she was like, you would have your one-story house, you would be right next door, so if you ever needed anything, you wouldn't have to rely just on your husband, you know, or wake him up in the middle of his night or day to go do something. She's like, we would be right there. And also, because the plan is, if my dad ever dies, she will not live alone. She is going to live with us, you know. I know that's terrible to think about, but me and my mom, we like to think about the future and, like, plan ahead, you know. And she was like, and since you're gonna be right there, like, if anything ever happens, I won't have to move in because we're gonna be in the same property. You'll be right there, you know, so we won't have that worry, and that would solve Emma's walking to school problem, and it would solve so many problems, and I was like, yes, I want to do that, you know. And she was like, okay, well, so I started looking at different places and, like, house floor plans and that kind of thing, and because I had talked to my husband about it, and he was like, let's do it, you know, because he knows how bad I need a one-story house, you know. And, like, we've looked, because we want to stay in the same area, you know, but, like, the houses around here are so expensive, like, it's ridiculous. Like the house that we live in now, it's so expensive, you know, but we got here at a time when these houses were not as expensive, but now it's like, whoa, you know, whoa. But anyway, and so she was like, well, look around, you know, and then we were gonna start the process, you know. And she was like, let me call the HOA to find out how the septic system, because she's on, I think it's a septic system, and we would have to dig a separate septic thing or whatever, and put on a light pole and stuff like that, you know. She wasn't sure about, because they're on well as well, because it's basically like they live in the country, you know, even though they live asked the HOA, what are the stipulations for whatever? And the HOA said, no, you can't do that. The property can only have one house, and, whatever. And she was like, what the hell? Because my aunt, who lives right next door, she built, it's a separate building, but it's like a garage and there's an apartment on top, so it's like a whole other separate thing. And then my cousin, who lives across the street, it's like my whole family lives on this one street, which would have been awesome. My cousin, he has like, I don't know, 3 or 4 houses on his property, but they are like tiny houses. You know what I mean? And then he has an RV as well, and he also has a shop that's been built. Oh my god, a shop is so cool. Anyway, so he's got multiple dwellings on one deal, and then like there are several houses in their neighborhood that have multiple houses on one property, and she's like, what the hell, because their HOA is like a joke. Like, no one drives around, like, because it's like the country. It's like HOA is ridiculous. It's completely pointless, And she was just like, this is crap, but it's my mom, and I completely understand. She's not going to violate any HOA rule or law or whatever, which I get it, because if you violate a rule and they decide one day to check up on the residents, or they get a new company that covers the HOA and they start driving around, like they could like, I don't know if they would fine her or whatever, but I have read that if you violate whatever, they can, I don't want to say take your property, but it's something like that, and that we're not even, you know what I mean? But my mom was just like, this is crap, because she was really excited about it too, because then I would be there for her, and she would be there for me and stuff like that, and it would have solved all of our problems. All the little bitty things, and God, it would have made the holidays so much better, because it's like I could be right there cooking whatever. We could go to my mom's house, my mom could go to our house, because we could just walk to each other's houses. We would be right there on the same property, and then my aunt, she would be there, my cousins would be there. Like, it would have been so amazing. But the HOA was like, no, because you can't have the 2 septic tanks and the, like, what? So I was so excited, and then I was just crushed. I was crushed. So, because I was like, oh my god, my life would be so much easier. Everything on one floor, no more stairs. If I fall, it would just be on the main floor. Like, I need a 1-story house. So I was like, when my mom gave me the terrible news, like, I was very upset, but I was like, so I guess we're back to winning the lottery plan. I need to win the lottery so I could just buy my dream house, it's 1 story and has everything that I want. So give me all your positive energy and vibes so that I can win the lottery and I can just get my 1-story house and not have to worry about, this house is too expensive, this house is too expensive, this house is perfect, I don't have the money for that house. You know what I mean? But anyway, so we're not moving, even though I would like to move, I need to move. I need a 1-story house. It would make my life so much easier. Anyway, so this is kind of neighborhood gossip, but it's not really. This is just like something that I gotta tell you because I cannot believe this. Okay, so Emma so it's a bit of a distance. So their parents would have to come here to get her and stuff because I can't drive. But she was like, she doesn't have parents, she has a mom. And I was like, oh no, what happened? And her dad died like when she was younger. Anyway, but I was like, okay, so it's just the mom and her. Does the mom have a boyfriend? Because I don't trust men, like, especially someone else's boyfriend or husband or something that I don't know personally. Like, I don't trust you. I'm very protective. And the mom had a boyfriend, but like, I had all these questions, and I was like, okay, well, would it be a sleepover or would it be a hangout session? What time would this be? What would you guys be doing? Would you be walking through the neighborhood? Like, because that's not safe. Anyway, I know I'm overprotective, but you have to be. Anyway, so she asked her friend all these questions and stuff, and there were answers, and I was like, okay, well, I gotta talk to your dad about it, and then we'll talk about it. And so me and her dad were like, well, if it's just a hangout for this amount of time, we can test it out, but we would have to meet, and see where they lived and all that stuff. And so I asked him, I was like, okay, let's give her the information, and then we can set it up with her mom or whatever. And then we never really heard it. Like 2 weeks went by, and I was like, did you ask her? And she was like, yeah, I don't know. And I'm like, okay. We could never get the scheduling right, And then a week ago, Emma was like, Mom, I have to tell you something. And I'm like, okay. And she was like, my friend, the one who she wanted to go hang out at her house, she was like, my friend's mom got arrested. What? What? Details. I need the whole story right now. Okay. So there is a little pizza restaurant right in front of the neighborhood. Okay. It's in the front of our neighborhood, in the front of their neighborhood, because our neighborhoods are like, there's like a road here. This is their neighborhood, this is our neighborhood, and there's side of his house, okay? Because that's kind of what it looked like. And then he started putting these heat lamps in there, and I'm like, what? What is going on? And then he built this door, and he built this door so many times. He took it off, put it back on, took it off, put it back on, rearranged the thing, and then there was a lock on the outside. And I'm like, why is there a lock on the outside? It was like this little, I don't know, it's so strange. And I'm just like, for months, I'm like, what the hell is he doing? He finally finished, thank God. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. There's this weird hole at the bottom, and there's a door at the top, and then there are these like heat lamps. And then my husband was like, I know what he has. I finally get it. And when he told me, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. It's an outdoor house for his turtle. And it's for him to like hibernate outside if he wants, because he was putting all these things in there in like different levels, and that's what the heat lamps were for, you know, because turtles like go into hibernation or something over the winter. I don't know. Did he finish it over the winter? No. But at the bottom, that's what that hole was for, so that if the turtle wanted to go outside, it could, but then it could go back in, but it had all these different layers. I was like, oh, finally. So I don't have a drug dealer back there like I thought, because that guy does. He does every once in a while smoke, and I hate it. I hate it. The kid over here who used to smoke all the time, he's just gone. I don't know what's going on with this house over here, because they had multiple like generations living there. Both the kids are gone. I think the grandparents that were living there, they're either just not leaving the house or what. I don't know. But I almost feel like it's just the wife, because I never see the husband anymore. Never. And just yesterday, the wife hired a lawn mowing service to come and mow the lawn. And I'm She was like, I think I got it all. I think I got it all, but I can't make the thing shut up. So I think she must have been cooking or something, and there a fire started, and then the alarm went off, and then so she's like getting the sink spray thing to like put the fire out. I don't know. It was crazy, and I was like, Ava was done, and I was just like, I'm not leaving this backyard until I know everything's okay, because I was about to go to sleep, you know, and I'm like, how am I supposed to sleep when I know that their fire alarm is going off, and there could be a possible fire, and our houses are very close together, you know, so I'm like, I don't want any flames coming from their house to my house without me knowing, you know. So I stood out there and I waited. I just waited because I'm like, I need to know. I need to know if they're gonna be okay, if I need to call, if they actually got it all out. Eventually they did. They were airing out their house to get the smoke out, you know. And their alarm finally went off, but I was just like, oh my god. Oh my god. Anyway, so that was scary, but they're fine. It was just a kitchen situation. But my goodness, right? But anyway, so like, yeah, as of right now, that's pretty much all that's going on in the neighborhood. Like, I don't really know how I'm gonna be doing neighborhood gossips from now on. I guess it's gonna have to be just of these people down the road. Like, on this road, it can't be any of the back neighbors.